He's not a bat, he's a man who fights crime. And we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time. With John and Dael and a guest who doesn't rhyme. It's Bat Minute!
Attention, citizens of fair Gotham, and welcome once again to Bat Minute Forever, the show that is in grand pursuit of the golden nuggets within Joel Schumacher's masterpiece, right? I am one of your hosts, John Parker.
Oh, the nuggets within. That doesn't bring up very nice imagery, John. But yes, I am also here asking just, how did you create these images, hun? I am the co-host, Niall McGowan.
Hi, hon.
Hey.
From now on, I'm going to say that every episode. I hope you're aware of this. But we are joined by our very, very, very special guest. I know I say that every time, but this is someone you will know, you will love. This is a recurring guest. This is the one, the only, Dael Kingsmill.
Yay! Thank you for always calling me a special guest. It makes me feel good about myself. It's me again.
You're kind of one of the voices of the show, but, you may have fallen into second place in the rankings, of course, with your amount of appearances.
I never thought that I would be competitive about this, but it plays on my mind. I'm like, how can I steal that first place trophy? I need it.
I mean, we do have hiatus projects, so we'll obviously keep you in consideration for those, if you're in any way intrigued.
Most of them are terrible, of course. Although the one time we did one that wasn't terrible, you hated it.
I remember Prince, all right? I just can't believe that I was the only one who was like, why did this happen to me? Everyone else loved it. Everyone had a great time.
It was awesome. You didn't have to watch the next two Prince films.
True.
I think that's the difference.
And I count my blessings on the daily.
I mean, like this time we'll get her we'll get her in for like a surefire hit, like the Cable Guy. And then Dael will be like, the Cable Guy is terrible. Like, what?
But anyway, something that's not terrible, is this minute, which is minute 73. And the minute starts with some intense thirst. And it ends with a beauty queen to rule them all.
If there is Chase Meridian on screen, there will be thirst within the minutes.
Oh my gosh. I need her to calm down.
Yeah, well, let's get this out of the way immediately then. What are your thoughts on the character? Because essentially she exists to be horny, right?
Right? Like, I want to like her. I really do. I love the idea of, Bruce Wayne getting in too deep with an abnormal psychologist. So it's like, here's this person who could pick up that he's Batman. It's such a cool idea. I think the first time you meet her in the movie, it's like there's some fun back and forth banter. And then immediately she's on a rooftop in like lingerie, throwing herself at him. And I don't understand where it came from. Schumacher, why?
Interestingly, that scene is supposed to be later in the movie, in the script.
Oh,
they chop it around.
That would make some more sense to me. I feel like she would still be just way too much, but it would tone it down like 3 notches, which it would help.
Yeah.
To be fair, though, in terms of her toning things down, like, she's trying to get the attention of a guy who wears, like, a rubber bat suit. It's like, I don't think this guy gets subtlety. I think you need to go in hammer and tongs.
I know it's not this minute, and it's not fair for me to talk about it, but can we talk about that second where she goes, oh, yeah, I have a thing for black rubber suits. It's why? Also, she lists off all of her former kinks before. It's just like, what is... Just a shopping list of stuff she likes.
Hey,
half
at least
of them
she's
including a description of Robin, by the way.
Thank God you said that. That's what we were saying. Yeah. Why isn't she going out with Dick Grayson?
Why? Because he just matches so many of the... He could put on a black rubber suit.
he does in the next movie.
He does, yeah.
Maybe that's why Chase Meridian's gone. It's just like Bruce is like, you need to leave because I can't take it. If the stupid dweeb I took into my house ends up stealing my girlfriend.
That'd be great if the next movie started with that, like, oh, where's Chase? It's like, and they've fallen out because Dick slept with her and she's had to leave.
I also can't understand the trajectory of her relationship with Bruce rather than with Batman. Because with Batman, it's like instantly she's like, get in my pants, let me in your pants. Like, it's very straightforward. With Bruce, she kind of seems to suggest that she's not really interested. And then he invites her to the circus, which is not a thing that billionaires do in my understanding of like how the world functions. But he invites her to the circus and she says yes. And while at the circus, on their first date at the circus, he invites her rock climbing and she says, no, I'm interested in Batman. And then somehow now they're together at a fancy function with the worst lighting for a fancy function I've ever seen.
I put it all down to Alfred's dating advice. It's like, the greatest aphrodisiac a woman can get is the smell of elephant dung. You should always take her out to the circus on a first date.
Nothing makes a woman think of sex, like trapeze artists.
Well, I mean, they get me going. They do now after doing this movie minute by minute, let me tell you.
Oh, I mean, that's the thing, though, Dale. Dick Grayson does not feature in these minutes, tragically.
He does not.
But, of course, our whole thing we had throughout the entire show basically was bore from your, I don't want to say disgust at Jack Nicholson, but you were the first person I remember being like,
saying
oh, no,
that I didn't find Jack Nicholson hot. That came up while I was rewatching the movie in preparation for this podcast. And as I was watching Jim Carrey as the Riddler and complaining about him, I was like, I wonder if this will be another unpopular opinion, like when I said Jack Nicholson wasn't sexy.
Well, the thing is, like, this year, in terms of, like, rating the super hunks, I've been stunned to find out that, like, Chris O'Donnell is actually, well, at least was regarded as, like, super, super hot by people.
At this time?
When he's...
Like when this movie was made?
Yeah, but I just find him to be, like, he is the most milquetoast, bland-looking man I've ever seen in my life.
I agree with that. Every time someone walked into the room while I was watching, they would say, I know that guy. Who is that guy? And I was like, I don't know. He's in one of the NCISs.
He's
We've
every
never
white
watched
guy
it,
you've ever met.
but he's on the ads.
No, but this is 90s hot. You need to understand. This is what everybody was into.
Which I guess,
He looks like he could
for
be-
sure is true.
He's the rebellious one in the boy band. You know, he's
And they
not too
clearly
bad.
hired him because he's hot guy. I still don't understand whether he's meant to be a teenager or not.
He's clearly, like, 35 years old.
He's definitely he cannot be anyone's youthful ward. But
No,
here he
no.
is. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of agree. I understand logically that he was hired for his physical attractiveness, but he looks like a guy.
He is, yeah, that is a man.
But he's a bad boy. He's got an earring.
He's not unattractive. He's just there.
He's the kind of guy, like, even though he's, like, a Hollywood star and stuff, some people, like, a lot of celebrities are like, oh, if you saw them out in the street, you'd be stunned at how good looking they are. I imagine, like, if Chris O'Donnell walked into a shop, people would be like, that's a man.
Yeah.
He just looks like any other man.
Yeah.
He's a
Whereas
man
I imagine
like
if you
any
saw
man.
Nicole Kidman, that might be a bit, that you'd be taken aback.
Yeah.
I don't know why that strikes me as a particularly UK opinion.
Really?
I mean,
I
okay.
thought she would be the pride of Australia, though.
Well, I
'cause,
mean, we love her. Of course we do. Of course. But I feel like we will never love her as much as the UK does.
We seem to like most of your celebrities more than you do.
You know what? That's probably true. Okay, there's a big thing in Australia with tall poppy syndrome. Do you know what that is?
No.
It's just...
I mean, we know what it is, but for the guests, or for the listeners, of course.
For the listeners, yes. It's just basically if anyone gets too aware of their own success, we cut them down like a tall poppy.
Yeah.
So we like our celebrities to remain humble, and probably an aspect of celebrity in Australian culture is that we want to keep thinking of them as being like a mate,
Yeah.
So I think if we got to the point where seeing Nicole Kidman down the street stunned us, we'd probably also start being like, oh, getting too big for her britches.
I think we're the same with our celebrities, right? So we import them because then we can treat them differently to our own ones. Our own ones have to remain normal. I've just realised we're this far in and we haven't actually really introduced the minute properly. So we're back at Nygma's party, and he swiftly turns his attention to Bruce's date here, saying, "And you are?" She responds with a name, Chase. And his response, "And what a grand pursuit you must be."
I'd say one of my favourite lines of dialogue in the whole movie. It's absolutely fantastic.
This is up there with my absolute favourite Nygma moments. That delivery.
I know you alluded to earlier, Dael, that you were irritated by Jim Carrey in this. The thing is, I think, like, I've kind of made my peace with him. And I think, like, lines like that, the way he delivers that with this real, like, cheesy smoothness, where he's, like, as a guy desperately trying to be sexy and alluring and stuff, is great. Well, and then on the other side, the guy who should be sexy and alluring, Val Kilmer, is, like, this may be Val Kilmer's worst scene. I think, because he is dead in the water in this thing.
Okay, so it's interesting that you say that, because I will say, for starters, I'm always annoyed by Jim Carrey. I liked him in The Grinch because I felt like his style of comedy was appropriate in a Dr. Seuss piece. I was really expecting you to say, like, I liked him
in The Grinch because I relate to The Grinch on a personal level. And of course,
that too, obviously. Plus the song, Where Are You Christmas? A classic, forever. But I just constantly, like, he does the faces, he does the body thing, and it just reminds me so much all the time of, like, when a toddler, like, makes you laugh, and so then they spend the next 7 hours doing the exact same thing over and over and over again because they've got to laugh that one time. Only a toddler is cute, and Jim Carrey is an adult man who has no excuse and who, like, gets mad when other people are funnier than him. So I just generally don't like Jim Carrey. But when I saw this scene was amongst my minutes, just to spoil that I'm gonna be coming back for more minutes. But when I saw the minutes that you'd given me, I thought, I lucked out. I've got, like, one of two bits in the movie where Jim Carrey doesn't bug me until he starts dancing.
I
love that though.
Oh my gosh. I was like, that. Finally, I get the scene where he has to, like, and he's sort of mimicking Bruce, you know? So he's got that thing of, like, trying to fit his sort of craziness in and look like he is composed and look like he's, you know, this reasonable, suave guy. So I was like, finally, I get a scene where he has to, like, dial it back for 2 seconds. What's that thing that they say Tommy Lee Jones, because he worked in this movie, at some point, years later, Jim Carrey walked into a restaurant where Tommy Lee Jones was eating. I'm sure this must have come up previously on the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and he said, what was it? It was, I cannot...
sanction your buffoonery.
That's it. I cannot sanction your buffoonery. That's how I feel. I am Tommy Lee Jones here.
Well, that's the thing, though. That wasn't years later. That was at the start of production. Like, they hated him. Well, Tommy Lee Jones hated him throughout, and he treated him like crap the entire way through the whole movie.
Which I don't want him to treat him like crap, but also I've heard Jim Carrey treats other people like crap on set, so I'm kind of like, maybe it's fine.
Because they had that Man in the Moon documentary where he's just like, people are going to see what, like, a method actor genius I am. And then people kind of came out with it and, like, it seems like Jim Carrey's just a bit of an inconsiderate asshole, like, and he's a bit of a psycho.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I was listening to a podcast the other day. It's by the wrestling company AEW. It's their official podcast, and they have the wrestling announcer Jim Ross as part of the team. You know, the most famous wrestling announcer ever. And they were interviewing him, and he's in the movie. And he said, "Oh, you know, I still watch that whenever it comes on TV. You know, I had a great time filming it. It was wonderful." And he's like, "Jim Carrey, though, he was a nightmare." He's like, he was always on, like, and he's like, he was annoying people. And he said, you know, Andy Kaufman, because he knew Andy Kaufman, he's like, he never annoyed people. Like, he was always, like, nice and lovable. And this was just irritating.
Although I have to say, though, in doing further reading, because we've talked a lot about, like, you know, how difficult Val Kilmer was in the 90s to work with, although we've had counter stories of that now. Weirdly enough, actually, in speaking about the whole Jim Carrey, Tommy Lee Jones, and Val Kilmer difficulties, two men on this film who apparently got on great were Jim Carrey and Val Kilmer. Apparently, they had a great relationship. Apparently, at the time, they bonded because both their fathers had died recently, and they were both going through divorces. And so that kind of made them friends, basically.
What a weird time to have to make this movie.
Yeah.
Like, imagine coming in... Like, this movie is basically like someone handed a proper budget to Adam West Batman. So, coming into that kind of a film with that sort of life crisis, like, holy crap.
I was just saying that, though, because, like, imagine, like, oh, yeah, Jim Carrey and Val Kilmer, the Riddler and Batman getting on well. Reminded me of, I don't know if you've heard, like, there was a story went viral a couple of years back because Adam West was talking about, like, reminiscing, about his days on Batman. And he told a story where him and Frank Gorshin, who played the Riddler in that show, they went out, like, oh, we're going to go to a Hollywood party. And they wandered in, and it turned out to be an orgy.
Oh my god.
And then the two of them, because it was the 60s, they were like, oh, we're going to stay. And apparently they immediately started doing their Batman and Riddler voices, and were just in character at the orgy and stuff. So much so that they were asked to leave because they weren't taking the orgy seriously enough.
Oh, not taking it seriously.
You can't be having fun at an orgy.
No.
Unless it was like a Bohemian Grove orgy where it's like, this isn't like a laugh orgy. This is like, we're sacrificing people to the devil orgy. Please have a bit more decorum, sirs. I would love to just like, tragically both those men have passed away now. Just like, what were you saying? Like, in what way was like the Riddler coming up and been like, riddle me this, Batman. What is both a number and a position? And so like, oh, Riddler, you fiend. Of course, it's 69.
Nice.
And then what would, like, if Jim Carrey and Val Kilmer, having finalized their divorces, I think Val Kilmer was divorcing Joanne Whaley at that point, his co-star from Willow, actually.
Wow.
Well, look, imagine Jim Carrey going out, like, to an orgy and being like, I got a orgy, O-R-G-Y, 'cause I gotta. And Val Kilmer, and I'm like, yeah, so I'd like to go up to that woman and put my hands on her face. And just doing this. It's like, what the hell would have been going on there? Now it kind of, and then Tommy Lee Jones is in the back, like, oh, those two assholes, I hate the silence.
Is it weird that I fully assume Jim Carrey attends orgies?
I would fully attend. I would assume, knowing what we now know about Joel Schumacher, that there probably were orgies happening, at least in his apartment. Because I don't know if you know, Dale, but Joel Schumacher, the director of this film, he recently came out and said that he believes he's had sex with upwards of 200,000 people.
That's so many people. That's too many people.
I was going to mention actually later in this minute, because there's a biography of a woman we're going to talk about in a little bit. And she says that back in the 70s, Schumacher described himself as a sexual outlaw. And apparently he used to host puppet parties when he was a kid to like entertain his friends. And then he first had sex at 11.
What?
And he himself said like, after that, there were no more puppet shows.
Oh,
and
my
so
gosh.
apparently, yeah, Joel Schumacher has lived quite a life. But I would assume, with knowing that about him, that yeah, there was probably parties going on, and it was quite a likelihood that Jim Carrey and the whole crew was at them.
Well, before we besmirch anyone's name any further, or maybe they'll be happiest talking about it. I don't know, but this thing that Nygma does, this, what a grand pursuit you must be. It's such a villain move as well, I thought. Like, very much. It's like a Bond film. It's like something the Bond villain does to James's lady friend.
Yeah, it's almost like they're setting up Riddler in this movie as being the dark foil for Bruce Wayne, whereas we had, the Joker as the dark foil for Batman earlier on in the series of films. We've now got, like, this is Bruce Wayne if he decided that he cared more about money and
Well, that's 100% true. That usually is like the best form of Batman villain, is like, they're always the Black Mirror version of him. Like Oswald Cobblepot would be like, oh, that was a person from great privilege who ended up using who was instead of his parents getting taken away from him, his parents threw him away.
Yeah.
And so he
was adopted by penguins.
Exactly. Yeah.
Perfectly normal.
And of course, yeah, like Harvey Dent's obviously somebody who was like, really wanted to pursue true justice and then had something horrible happen to him. And instead of, using that mental scarring for good like Batman, he uses it for evil as Two-Face and things like that,
Does this make the Penguins a foil for Alfred?
I mean, they're dressed the same.
Yeah. It's right there.
I mean, like, there was a deleted scene of the Penguin, a penguin bringing Oswald Cobblepot a plate of vichyssoise. It's too hot. It's supposed to be colder than this. Sorry, boss.
Oh, that'd be so good. That'd be so good. Or it could be oh, no. You've hit the nail on the head. I want to see it. Someone do like a fan thing. I want a comic. Anything.
Although speaking of Alfred, though, I was kind of hoping that Bruce had a little earpiece here, because obviously when Nygma sort of starts to sort of try to win over Chase Meridian, quite unsuccessfully, actually, considering the rest of the minutes and stuff. Of course, Bruce then speaks to Sugar, who is Nygma's paramour in this scene.
This is where we're really lucky, because we get a good chunk of Drew Barrymore.
Yeah. I think this might be the biggest. Well, that's actually the weird thing. In all the drafts of the scripts, this part is just played by like random showgirl, and I think it must have been because when they got Drew Barrymore, it's like, you need to give her more to do because it's friggin' Drew Barrymore. Everyone knows who she is, so they give her like a couple of lines, even though the part is still ridiculously small. And me and John have both already been like, yeah, the Sugar and Spice are great characters. You should be really using them way, way more.
Definitely.
But the way Bruce ends, like, oh, so, and you are? And she's like, oh, well, you can call me whatever you want. I do kind of want them to have a little earpiece, but Alfred's like, she's 19, sir, back away, back away. Because Drew Barrymore is 19 years old in this scene.
That's insane. That's
crazy.
Weird to think about.
It's one of those things where she's like, when you've grown up with someone, you always assume like, oh, they're an adult. They're way, way older than me.
Yeah, because the first time I saw her, she was an adult, I mean, I guess maybe not,
Yeah.
but I don't have strong memories of, like, E.T. as a child.
Yeah, it's just one of those things of like, oh, yeah, I was like, oh, when she must have been like in her mid-30s when she did like, Charlie's Angels and stuff. And then you're like, oh, you watch Santa Clarita Diet. And it's like, oh, she must be like 50 odd or something now. And it's like, no, she's 44 now. I'm like, she's only 44?
That's insane. Comprehending Drew Barrymore's age is breaking my brain.
Let me just put a disclaimer out there, though. We're not meaning it in like a bad way. Like, she looks amazing.
Oh, yeah. It's just the fact that she's
1,000%.
been so famous for so long that it's like...
Yeah.
I get the same thing with Britney Spears. And people turn around and like, Britney Spears is 36. I'm like, she's 36?
She's 36?
I mean, she has been around for, a long, long time. Because when did she start singing? She must have been like
I need to
17 or
Google
something.
this. This is too much for me.
I think it's Baby One More Time was 99. That's like 21 years ago now. So I guess maybe she's 37 now. But like, yeah, she's like... Again, though, because when I was a little kid... She was 16, but it looked like she was an adult
She's
because she was on
38.
TV.
She was born in 81. How is Britney Spears only 38? Oh my gosh.
And again, she looks
And
great.
again, she looks great. Like, she looks great. But it's just like, my brain is, because I'm an adult now. So it's like anyone who was an adult when I was still
Now
a
it
youth.
feels like, at 32, it's like Britney Spears is almost like my peer now. I thought she was like an adult way years ahead of me. But now I feel like, oh, we're kind of in the same age bracket. And I never knew that. I always assumed she was way, way older and stuff.
Bizarrely stressful.
Yeah. But although I'm talking about like, trying to win over people and whatnot, I do feel that I think it is the acting in the scene sort of undermines it a little bit. Because I feel like this was done like way better when Iron Man 3 did essentially the same plot line. I don't know if you've seen Iron Man 3, Dale, but...
I love Iron Man 3. Everyone hates Iron Man 3. It's like one of my favorite of the Marvel films.
I understand people that maybe having a beef with the whole Mandarin twist. But like,
I
always thought it was great.
but it's like, it's Iron Man's arch nemesis. They had to incorporate him in. I don't think they did have to incorporate him in some capacity because it's like they already did the ring in the first movie and did the twist and changed the whole thing. But since they, like, I can understand them wanting to use Iron Man's arch nemesis. And I think it was a good way to dodge a lot of the problems inherent in, like, the comic book history by just being like, actually, behind it all is just this like white guy who I want to say an American white guy, but it's weird because he's Guy Pearce. But yeah, I don't know. I can get people thinking it's problematic, but I think they're maybe blowing it out of proportion.
Like, I think my problem is that I like the character of the Mandarin and that. So to find out he's not really properly
that he's Trevor,
yeah, it's a bit disheartening. It's like, oh. But, like, if it wasn't Iron Man or that character or whatever, if it was just a new movie with this plot, I would love the twist.
Yeah.
Well, at the end of the day, though, Guy Pearce is the Mandarin. He flat out says, like, well, there is no... I am the Mandarin.
So he's not properly in it, if you get me.
But Dale, not knowing that you know Iron Man 3 well, if I was to sum up the plot line of dweeby, mistreated employee of a charismatic billionaire who's also turns into a superhero, is admonished by him earlier when he has greasy long hair and glasses, who reappears as an immensely successful businessman years later, and becomes a rival in business and potentially in romance.
And also in neuroscience to some capacity.
Yeah. Of course, I am, in fact, talking about The Incredibles. But no.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Imagine choosing this movie. I'm so derisive towards this one. I'm sorry. It's my least favorite of the quadrilogy.
Really?
Yeah.
But because you are like a little bit younger than me and John, Dale. Because I really love this movie, but I didn't realize a lot of it would have been because I was like 8 when it came out.
The nostalgia
and
thing.
I remember the hoopla, like the marketing campaign for this was, and it's such good like symbiology and whatnot, because just that, the bat symbol with the question mark around it, and just all like the YouTube videos and just like,
that
soundtrack.
Stuff though, that stuff is great. There is so much great design work, and I think there is a lot of clever bits of clever directing. It's hard because then I think other bits are real weak. But no, I think part of why it's my least favorite is that I think it could have been like right up the top for me.
Yeah.
But instead it let me down and I feel betrayed, so I'm like, get to the bottom. Get to the bottom of the ranking.
I think it's time I just melded it all together. So I'm like, yeah, I watched it. I got this in VHS for Christmas. I watched it every day for like months and stuff. So I still have very, very fond memories of this. But like, did you come a little like too late to that? Where you're just like, what point of your life did you see Batman Forever? Was it ever a thing?
Oh, super late. I mean, you guys, you know that I didn't see the first two until we started doing these podcasts. I only watched the whole quadrilogy after you started inviting me on these podcasts.
Oh, okay. Oh my God.
Yeah, so I'm very recent. So I have none of the nostalgia factor. I'm coming in from a post-Nolan world where I'm just like, this is what Batman movies are. Let's see what the past has to offer.
Well, before we did this show, I mean, obviously doing this has complicated it, but before that, I also definitely said this was my least favorite, just because, the first two they're proper movies. They're Burton, they're dark, they're twisted, they're weird. I love that. And then the, Batman and Robin, the last one, is so unbelievably bonkers. It's hilarious. Whereas this is kind of an in-between, and I think that's where it got a little lost for me.
And I mean, part of it as well, I feel like Val Kilmer wasn't having much fun doing the movie, which now makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
I don't think he ever does.
I don't know. I feel like watching Willow, I feel like he had fun on Willow.
Oh, yeah, that's the thing. I rewatched Willow recently, and like him as Mad Mardigan is just like, oh my God, I get why this guy's famous.
He just brings it, You're like, oh, that's Val Kilmer. And it's so weird because for the longest time, that was my only point of reference for who Val Kilmer was. And then, like, growing up and seeing the rest of his body of work, I'm like, oh.
Yeah,
right.
I'm thinking that, like, because he's funny, he's handsome, he can do action, he can do comedy, he can do the romantic parts. It's like, yeah, this guy, like, I could totally see someone being like, that guy could be like a good Bruce Wayne. And then, whatever.
That's exactly
happened.
what I said. I was like, that Val Kilmer could be a great Bruce Wayne. And then I put on the movie and I went, oh.
Yeah, it just didn't, particularly
he
becomes
wasn't
evident
a
in these
bad
scenes.
Bruce Wayne by any means, but yeah.
Well, that's the thing, though, like, in talking about, like, I think it's more next minute when you get some real interactions between him and Edward. I think he's very, very flat in this scene. But I will say though, before within this minute, there's a little bit in the novelization and talking about Val Kilmer's previous movies and stuff. They add in a line where Edward says to Bruce, "How humiliating my success must be for you. There you were, a real genius, and you couldn't recognize my own." And it's like, Val Kilmer was in a movie called Real Genius way back in the 80s, and it made him a star and stuff. So I can't help but feel like see the author's elbow poking out of the page directly into my eye.
You get it? You get it?
You get it?
Yeah.
You get the joke I'm making?
Well, speaking of getting things, do you think that Sugar right here, she's playing along a little bit. She looks delighted with what's going on. Do you think it's because, like, they're getting to Bruce with what they're doing? Or is she kind of into seeing Nygma flirting with Chase? Is it like a weird group thing?
I have to assume it is meant to be the former. But when rewatching it the other day, I was just like, this everyone's flirting with everyone right now.
Yeah.
This is like, it's a lot. And then they just cut you off from it as well. They're just like, la la la. It's leading into that orgy stuff again.
It is.
And then immediately they're just like, business.
That's just Joel Schumacher's life. He's like, I don't know how to make any scene that's not erotically charged in some way.
But every conversation he's ever had has been sexual.
Yeah.
Well, because then Bruce does it back. He does it to Sugar. And
It's true.
I know she's kind of playing along as we discover. No, that's not really a spoiler. Come on. You people know.
No, it's...
But at the same time, I get the vibe she is playing him, but she's down.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
And I mean, you're so right. After Nygma kisses Chase's hand, it cuts to Drew Barrymore, biting her lip.
Yeah.
And then you cut to Bruce, and he's not looking at Edward or Chase. He's looking at Drew Barrymore. It's just like everyone is just undressing each other with their eyes.
Oh my God. I never realized it was that way until we were doing it minute by minute.
I mean, Sugar's life up until this point is she's just the kinky, live-in lifestyle, a polygamous relationship with Two-Face. So she's her life is just sexually charged all the time. I have no doubt if Bruce Wayne made a pass at her, she'd be like, "Yep, we're going back to your car, or to inside one of these box booths or whatever, and I'm gonna bang Bruce Wayne." And then afterwards, maybe we'll hook up, maybe we won't, but I'm definitely gonna have him. And if Bruce Wayne's down for that, all the better.
Out of Sugar and Spice, she's the sweet one. When you first sort of see them with Two-Face, and they're both offering him they've made meals and whatever, and her side is all fancy and sweet and la la la. So you get the idea that of the two of them, she's meant to be slightly more conservative. And yet here she is. I understand it's a high society event, so she's the one to pick, but it's also just clearly there's not that much difference between Sugar and Spice, when you come down to it.
The thing is, originally, until they were told by the studio to change it, they were going to be called Leather and Lace. So it probably was more no, there was never going to be oh, she's really sweet and kind and stuff. It's more no, they're both kinky as all
just
hell.
Different kinds of kinky.
But just different kinds, yeah. She likes the softer side, Leather likes the rougher side or whatever. But this is pretty much she could be if she was in the
Drew
Spice
Barrymore,
outfit.
It's America's sweetheart. You can't do that.
That's the thing too, because she's 19 here, but Drew Barrymore in her day-to-day life says oh yeah, I was Josie Grossi from Never Been Kissed. It's Josie Grossi wouldn't be doing this at 19. Jesus Christ, you're so... It's so weird too, actually, saying that Joel Schumacher recalls the day he's saying he met Drew Barrymore when she was 11. And she came over to him in a restaurant, and she's like, "St. Elmo's Fire is my favorite movie." And it's an 11-year-old thinks St. Elmo's Fire is her favorite movie.
It's a great movie, but if I was 11, I would think it was a boring piece of crap.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's, again, much like we're talking about with ennui Caster. St. Elmo's Fire is just about the ennui of post-graduation life for people in their early 20s. It's a really...
It's not the kind of content 11-year-olds necessarily are expected to connect with.
No.
But at the same time, I just think it's weird. I always think it's weird when anyone you know when they're younger, and then you see them in any kind of like provocative position later on. Like there's a bit in in Far Away Home, there's that movie with Anna Paquin and Jeff Daniels, where Jeff Daniels plays Anna Paquin's dad, and she's like 10 in that movie. And then like a couple years later, they did The Squid and the Whale together, where she's a student having an affair with Jeff Daniels.
No, that's too weird. No. Also highlights a problem with Hollywood casting. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Not
and it's
okay.
because like Drew Barrymore met Joel Schumacher when she was 11, and now she's like in this like real, and you see all the publicity photos, like the full sugar outfit is very, very sexy. And it's like, I don't know, Joel, man. I don't. If I had met a young kid, I wouldn't have been comfortable. That no matter how old she is later on, been like, oh yeah, get her in this corset and get the tights on. And
Yeah,
stuff.
it just seems. I'm not saying he did. It just seems like it's something you were wanting to do all along.
Maybe he was the one who was like, I have to insist on a boa. Like she has to be wearing this boa wrapped around her at all times because I don't want to know about it.
But do you think Bruce is interested, right? Because he is looking at her, as you say, Dale. But that smile, is it just bad acting, or is it kind of a fake smile? Like, yeah.
I genuinely don't know. I'm so caught up in everyone making eyes at everyone that I'm sticking with my theory that everyone's interested in everyone.
Maybe, because normally Bruce probably wouldn't be into this kind of woman. But in this movie, I mean, this isn't a normal Bruce Wayne. This is very different.
Yeah, very much.
Although then Nygma, of course, he turns everyone's attention to his new like version of the box. This is, I think, when we were getting confused earlier, John, because it's like saying about like, oh, that I thought that fisherman guy coming out of the TV was Ed Begley Jr. and stuff. Yeah, I think because I've got all this movie, I've seen it like a million times. It's all muddled in my head. So I was just like, oh yes, the box can always do that. It's developed throughout the movie, where it's like it's only now that they can do the interactive holograms.
Only now, when the original's been out for 10 seconds. Like this guy, he's working like Apple or Nintendo. He's just bringing out a new model of the same damn thing.
He's boosted his intelligence, so he can figure out how to do it faster. There you go.
Yeah,
that tracks to me. But
true. But try convincing the public of that. Well, I suppose that's what this event's for.
Yeah, that's true.
But like trailing behind him at the as he's going on about like, oh, the future, my new interactive box, and yada yada yada. There's a little guy like making notes. I was convinced it was the security guard from the beginning of the movie, like oh no, it's boiling acid. I thought it was him. It's like he's back, he's freaking back. And then first like, no, it's just a different guy. But like, imagine though, like he's like, I quit the security business. It's too stressful. I'm going to get into a nice, relaxing, like, I'm going to be Gossip Gertie's, like, note person. So she goes around asking questions. I take notes for her. It'll be great. And then 10 minutes later, Two-Face friggin' shows up. And he's like, oh, no, it's happening again.
That would be a great running gag.
I love Gossip Gertie. I don't know why I love Gossip Gertie so much. She looks like a friend of mine, Annalise. And every time Gossip Gertie is speaking, I'm like, I trust you, which is the dumbest reaction.
I really love Gossip Gertie. I don't know if you know, but that's Bob Kane's wife as well in real life. That's how she got that part. But actually, speaking of Gossip Gertie, because she comes on like, oh, how do you create these images, hon, and all this business. She's friggin' out acting anybody in this movie because she really goes broad with her choices.
You know what? Yeah.
But the Gossip Gertie is a character who's like exclusive to the Schumacher movies. Mm-hmm. Has no part in Batman lore, and I can only assume it's because I think she's supposed to be a reference to a woman called Liz Smith, who is a dear, dear friend of Joel Schumacher. Mm-hmm. And in the 70s in Hollywood, she was called the Dame of Dish. Basically a gossip columnist who was like wildly successful. She was basically the Perez Hilton of like back in the day. And she was like used to write for like the Hearst papers and stuff, and then she was like had a gossip column for like Cosmopolitan, like the New York Times, et cetera, et cetera. But she was one of these people who was like, you might be famous, but I can make you a star. Like if you got in good with Liz Smith, that was you made. That's how like Madonna and stuff got big, because she made friends with Liz Smith, and she would constantly bump her up in her in their columns and stuff. But Joel Schumacher and Liz Smith, like interesting enough, like went way back to like the early days of Joel Schumacher when he back in the 70s. Not only was Joel Schumacher like a wild sex addict, apparently, he was also like a speed freak. Apparently, like he lost like 5 teeth and stuff to like basically a speed addiction.
Oh my god!
And at one point, he went out and buried all his needles. Apparently, he's one of these people. He seems like he's always on the verge of addiction, like really, really severe addiction. And then he just has something about him where even he says, like, yeah, when I made a movie, like I would just go completely clean throughout the shoot, like never touch a drug. And then as soon as production was over, I'd start up again and stuff. And obviously, it's like clean nowadays. But yeah, there's an article where he says like he owed like $30,000 in debt to the IRS. But then Liz Smith, who was his friend at that time anyway, she had a falling out with her husband. So she came to live with Joel Schumacher in his little crappy apartment. And basically, like, she helped him maintain his budget at this point of his life. He lived on $2 a day for 2 years.
Holy crap.
Which is like, I don't even know how that could even be vaguely possible. But like, yeah, he's talking about like across the street from them, they used to have great times where there was a Chinese restaurant across the street where for 99 cents you could get 5 courses.
What?
New York in the 70s, I guess.
How are they living on that money? Okay, all right.
Yeah.
That's suspicious. If your food's that cheap, I wouldn't eat it.
Yeah, that's obviously like, this is just grease scraped off the thing. And it's like, oh yeah, that's totally food. You can eat that.
These are the burnt bits that we couldn't put in the real meals.
This is like instead of throwing out the things that people don't eat, we just give it to Joel Schumacher and charge him 99 cents for it, apparently. But yeah, he was close to annihilation, in his own words. And Liz Smith helped him maintain this $2 a day budget and stuff. And then we started getting successful. Like, she really, really bummed him up. The point where, like, Joel Schumacher was even surprised that, like, Liz is so supportive of me and whatnot. So I can't help but feel that Gossip Gertie is a little love letter to Liz Smith because she's only in these movies.
Nice.
And although at the same time, you think, like, because we know, like, gossip hounds, like, Perez Hilton to me is like a scumbag, basically.
Oh, yeah, the worst.
For sure. So I'm like, it's so jarring to hear a nice story about someone who makes that their living. That's so weird.
That just seemed to be like, I'm sure there's a downside to her because she unfortunately she's dead now, but it seems like everyone's like, oh, she could make a career and stuff. It's like, I'm pretty sure she probably destroyed a few careers as well.
That the other side of that is breaking careers, like. Yeah,
100%. It's like, I'm pretty sure Liz Smith is probably like, you want to maintain your friendship with her because if she turns on you, you are out. But yeah, so no official verification of that. But I'm gonna go with the assumption that that's what Gossip Gertie is supposed to be.
Yeah, I think so.
I buy it.
Very disappointed though in finding like this guy who goes in to test the box though.
Oh my god, his fantasy. He's living his 3D dream. He can interact with it. And he gets a Hawaiian shirt and a lei, and I guess there are some girls, some young hotties with him.
He's loving it.
Kissing him on the cheek and giving him drinks. But it's like, this is it? It's limited only by your imagination. Maybe that's why they walk away so quickly. It's like, because
this is boring.
If you watch someone having their 3D fantasy for too long, surely it would devolve into something less.
My major disappointment is that this guy looks so much like Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah, I thought it was for years.
Oh my gosh.
It's like, why isn't it? Why wasn't this Commissioner Gordon? Like,
I couldn't
got to
think
do
it was
nothing in this
Commissioner
movie.
Gordon because I don't believe Commissioner Gordon would ever have that hair.
This is like, oh, I know it's the Nygma Tech party. I'm getting really fancy. I'm gonna do these little weird curls at the front of my hair.
And it'd be funny because we know that Gordon's married. So then in his fantasy, he's got these young ladies. So it'd be like really embarrassing for him.
At this point, though, we know he was married back in '89. But like, we had speculation earlier that maybe he was the one who orchestrated Chase Meridian's little rooftop meetup with Batman. That's why he was just there with the pajamas and dressing gown, just ready. Just like, I'm ready to go, Batman. I mean, maybe that's why they couldn't make a Commissioner Gordon, because of like, if he went in that booth and you saw his greatest fantasy, it would be just him and Batman, just like Batman, like arms around him, going like, "Jim, you're my best friend. I love you so much." Because as we know throughout this series of movies, Batman treats Gordon like it's something stuck to his shoe. Like,
rightly so, because this Gordon's
As to
useless.
the stories, he does nothing.
Nothing.
Like that'd be great though if it was just like you went in and like it was just Gordon was dressed up as Batman in the fantasy. It was like Gotham hails competent police chief and stuff. And then Mayor Bohr goes in and there's like, it's footage of people throwing hot dogs at his face or something. I don't know.
Do you think in the fantasy and whatnot you can actually taste the cocktails? I assume you can because it's affecting your brain.
I imagine so. I think it is supposed to be completely interactive.
Yeah, I'd have to think yes, because otherwise this would be a real letdown. Like, here you are, here's these cute girls handing you a drink, and you can't even taste the drink? That would be a nightmare. I'd draw the line at you can't get drunk on the fantasy. But even then, maybe. You know what I do love? I love... Sorry, no, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, that's it. That's interesting, actually. Yeah, could you get drunk as well? I'm
about to start talking science, and I have no idea what I'm talking about. But everything's just impulses in your brain, right?
Yeah. We're thinking with that, though, the box would have to... I guess maybe it is that advanced that if you were drinking, like, like a Long Island iced tea, it would have to, like, alter your brain to the extent of, like, well, what percentage of alcohol would be in a Long Island iced tea? And how much of that would be getting into the bloodstream? So how drunk would you be getting and stuff like that? Like, it would have a lot of factors to be bringing in.
And then that depends on, like, body weight, how much you can handle, all sorts of things.
Yeah. So it's an interesting thing. Like, we could take it to believe, like, the box is that advanced, but then...
I have to assume it can't be, because otherwise, like, where does it have to go from here?
Yeah.
One thing I do really love that this movie does is the use of Bruce Wayne's spectacles. I'm a big fan of the moments in this film where Bruce just puts on his glasses in order to do something sciencey.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
it helps,
it's just like, yeah, he's like, I'm reading through this report. I'm going to put on my glasses. I'm looking at this man's fantasy on the screen. I'm going to put on my glasses. And it does do something with Val Kilmer's performance. It's a very slight change, but it does a little thing where you get kind of this nerdy side of Bruce that we've not seen before. It's not just because he's wearing glasses, but like whenever he puts on the glasses, he gets a little bit less suave. He gets a little bit more, shop talk.
Yeah, he switches modes totally. Those glasses confer upon him +5 intelligence, you see.
Those guys, like what do you call it, Google Glass. It's actually Alfred on the other side telling him all the information.
Yes.
And Wikipedia says that high impulse beam into the brain would...
It's actually Alfred is the genius, really, as well.
It's like the real genius knows to stick to the behind the scenes and not let anybody know that you're the genius. You let some random goober go out and do it for you.
Exactly.
It will be just me, but like when that guy's going into the booth, he has such the gait about him of a guy just going to the toilet. Like it really seems like he's just looking for the loo or something. He's like he stumbled into this place. He's actually got like unzipped the trousers and is like in the middle of taking a whiz, and then it's like, holy crap, I'm on a beach all of a sudden. What the hell's going on?
Well, we do see one other little test subject as well. This lovely older lady who becomes a sort of pageant queen, a beauty queen, which is...
Again, I think it's just such a limited... like, your fantasies can come true, and this is all you've got for me. No one's flying? No one can fly?
I'd be doing all kinds of weird superpowers.
Plus, these people are already, like, the rich elite.
Yeah, if you got invited to friggin' Nygma Tech opening party, like, you've already got enough money to buy a tiara. Yeah, I'm just thinking about my jewelry that I have at home. That's all I fantasize about.
Again, Dale, like, you're perfectly right. It should be, like, they're flying, or, I don't know, they've got, like, super strength. Like, you could be doing little superhero references. You could have, like, maybe one of them turns into a character like the Green Lantern or something, where they have, like, the power to manipulate anything around them and all this kind of stuff. It's like you could do crazy stuff. Again, the box is just so wasted in this movie.
And of course the very obvious answer that someone should be fantasizing about being Batman.
Of course, yeah.
That would be so good. That'd be great. Why Jesus, that is the biggest missed opportunity to me.
Yeah, and that person should be James Gordon.
Yeah.
And he should have been played by that guy.
That's fantastic. It writes itself. And this version of Gordon would fantasize about wanting to be Batman.
Oh, cool. 100%.
1,000%.
Although, should say, that actor who is the guy in the booth, chubby businessman, as they call him, in the IMDb, he's a fellow called Jed Curtis, and I think he's a German actor. He's not been in many things of, all that much note. He was in something called What Do Women Want?, which is a slightly more frustrated sequel to What Women Want. He was in, just bringing up because of, your material, Dale, he was in something called The Carnival of Wolves, which is like, you had a great show, Wolfgang. It was available on YouTube.
Thank you.
And he's also in he appeared in something after this called Riddler's Moon, which is kind of appropriate, I guess. And then, weirdly enough, it stars Kate Mulgrew as a character called Victoria Riddler. Whereas the whole time we've been like, poo-pooing the Edward Nygma thing and stuff like that. And in the original draft of the script, he wasn't called Edward Nygma, he was called Lyle Heckendorf. And we're like, why are you going into this Edward Nygma? They could have just called him like Jim Riddler. And it would have it would have worked as a second name, I guess.
That's true. For him to be called Edward Nygma, I have to think he legally changed his name at some point because he was like, this would be funny.
Yeah.
I'm so clever.
No one will ever notice.
Well, then where do you stand on Lyle Heckendorf, Dale? Do you think that would have been a better way to go?
I am more of a fan of Jim Riddler than Lyle Heckendorf. Although, for some reason, I will say, Jim Carrey does look like a Lyle to me. I don't know why.
Yeah, I could see that. I think they should have gone like, maybe he should have been Jimmy Riddle.
And then people, like all the Cockneys, would be taking the piss out of him because he's going for Jimmy Riddle,
Yeah, be great. Oh,
like, at the end of the day, Edward, all you are to me is a Jimmy Riddle.
Well, speaking of differences, actually, the Goldman draft has a weird bit where they all give each other like a toast. They all say cheers to each other because it says it's got Edward toasts Chase after she introduces herself, and he says, "No grape could be more intoxicating than you, my dear, but we make do. To your charms." And he clinks the glass. Skål! And then Bruce raises his glass. Nostrovia. And then Nygma goes, I'm going to be really bad at this. Lachem. Then Bruce does another one back. L'chaim. There you go. See, I'm not very good with these. It's Slanta. Rinka. Banzai. And then Chase just interrupts this weird thing and goes, I'm drinking.
As she should. That's okay. That's a really bizarre thing. I kind of like it.
I know, I can't decide if it's genius or terrible.
No,
Yeah.
well, I actually do like that, and I wish more things like that had been in the finished film, because that's alluding to more of a legitimate rivalry between and one-upmanship that I don't feel is present.
And not just a one-sided one, because I feel like in this version of the movie we kind of have this constant need by Nygma to sort of one-up Bruce, but Bruce doesn't care. And I get that, and that's fine, and in real life I recommend that tactic anyway.
Yeah.
But for a movie, a legit, honest-to-God rivalry is a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, and I get the vibe Bruce isn't even fully aware that he's trying to beat him.
Which is so weird. He has a mole painted on his face.
Yeah.
But then again, Iron Man 3 did it better. Like, when Guy Pearce shows up and he's all flirty with Pepper Potts, like, Tony Stark gets a little like, wait, what's this guy doing and stuff? Friggin' Edward Nygma's stealing off Chase Meridian in this friggin' movie. He's attempting to, and Bruce is just like, whatever. I got Drew Barrymore now. Like, I don't care. Like, whoever, I'll go with whoever's nearby.
He's confident in himself. He trusts his date. He knows. He's like, yeah, she's with me.
I mean, he maybe shouldn't. He also knows that she's trying to hit on Batman all the time. So.
That is true. Although that's all stuff, I have more notes on that, kind of like where I feel it's lacking in that regard, but it's in the next minute. I don't know if either of you guys, shall we move on to the next minutes, or do you have anything else you want to bring up about this minute in particular?
I'm all tapped out for notes.
I'm tapped out also.
All right. Well, this season, Dale, we have a new little feature. Because in tying in, of course, to the Riddler been here, we pose a riddle to the guests and John.
I love it.
And the thing is, because I know
to the guests and John.
Yeah. Don't worry,
I said,
I'm crap at them.
I said we when I was like, well, I posed it to the guests and John, and me and all the multiple personalities I have. Gone for one that's slightly more difficult than usual, Dael, because I know you from online that you're a big game person. You like your tabletop stuff and whatnot, and you're
Yes, indeed.
into your ancient mythology and all that kind of business. And I was thinking, like, I bet Dael Kingsmill, she's probably a woman who knows her way around a riddle.
I do love a riddle. Hit me with it.
Okay, so this is riddle me this. Only one color, but not one size. Stuck at the bottom, yet easily flies. Present in sun, but not in rain. Doing no harm and feeling no pain. What is it?
Repeat for me.
Only one color, but not one size. Stuck at the bottom, yet easily flies. Present in sun, but not in rain. Doing no harm and feeling no pain. What is it?
I am a shadow.
Holy crap, that's it! That's exactly it!
Holy crap.
I feel so powerful!
Oh, my God. That's one of the only
I
times
love
it's been
riddles.
got first off.
Oh, really?
And with like barely any, like usually you got people sitting for like a couple of minutes going like, and then they'll hazard a guess. No one's been able to just go like, boom, it's a shadow. It's like, holy crap, that was incredible.
And normally at the end of the week, I toss a coin like Two-Face to decide if the guest lives or dies. But if they get the riddle right, they survive. But I think you got it so fast, I don't know, we need to come up with some kind of extra bonus.
That's going to be like Dale flips a coin to decide whether we live or die or something at this point.
This is just, I feel like it's suddenly justifying all the time I spent as a kid being like, where are all the riddle books? I need to read them.
Well, yeah, paid off. Like, you can go into like your parents now and be like, guess what, Mom and Dad?
Turns out it was worth it.
Oh, on that bombshell, we should depart. We should head into the dark night. Dael, would you like to tell people where you can be found online and any of your wonderful works?
Certainly, you may find me, predominantly I live on YouTube at Monarch's Factory, that's my channel name. I am Dael Kingsmill on Twitter and Instagram and things. I say that rather than my handle is variable. But if you look up Dael Kingsmill, I should come up.
Mm-hmm. Do that, everybody, and come and speak to us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're everywhere. Just look us up, Bat Minute. And come and buy a t-shirt from our TeePublic. That's very, very helpful. It goes into our lovely Bat Minute pot, which we're probably not going to get to spend because the Movies by Minutes convention is not on anymore because of the deadly virus that killed everybody a few weeks ago.
Hey, John, that just means we can go out and buy an original Val Kilmer painting. Like, we're quids in now that thing's not happening. We can go and spend that whenever we want. We're like Milhouse and Bart when we were getting like the all syrup squishy. We should just have like a post-season bender, which just me and you, just a night on the town, just with all that money, and we have to spend all of it.
Yeah,
like,
we should. It could be the staff Christmas party this year.
But it's like Brewster's Millions, but it's just like, oh yeah, it's like 300 quid or something. It's just not that impressive.
Hey, that's still impressive. Still impressive. So, yes, do donate to the drinking fund, everybody. It's probably not going to be for that. We put it back into the show, I'll be honest. And we will see you again on Wednesday for more Bat Minute Forever.
Next time, Petty Persuasion. The district's media darling dialogues with his doppelganger before losing his date to a ridiculous dancer. But as this socialite turns sleuth around Nygma's machine, which sexy and saccharine sidekick will intervene before too much can be seen? Find out Wednesday. Same Bat Pod, different Bat Minute. Ba-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.